Hi, welcome back to our online preparation course for the TOEFL test. This time, we are going to be focusing on passive voice. In the previous module, you were able to practice a passive voice in order to answer the grammar section. It is important that you know that the passive voice is not only tested in the grammar section, but also in the listening section. That's why it is so important that you know how to identify if a sentence is in active voice or in passive voice. So let's review a little bit. Here on your screen, you have on your left two sentences in active voice, and on the right, the same sentences but in passive voice. Remember that the normal pattern for active voice is subject, verb, and object. That is the normal order that the words follow. On the other hand, in passive voice, the order changes. The object changes place with the subject, and the action, the verb, is also changed. Why? Because we have to include the verb to be conjugated in the tense of the sentence. So, for example, Sally drove her car off of the road. If you notice that sentence is in active voice. Why? Because Sally is the subject, drove is the verb, and her car is the object. If we change that sentence into the passive voice, the sentence would be the car, that used to be the object, was driven by Sally. The second sentence says the dog bit Timmy on the arm. Okay, if you remember, we have to change the places of the subject and the object. So it is going to be Timmy was bitten on the arm by the dog. It is very, very important that you are able to identify when a sentence is in active voice or in passive voice, because that is one of the most important tips for the listening section of the TOEFL test. Every single time that you hear the second speaker saying something in passive voice, the answer is going to be inactive. Well, not every time, but most of the times. And vice versa. If you hear that the second speaker says something inactive, the answer most of the times is going to be in passive voice. That's why it is so important that you really know how to identify active voice and passive voice. So for example, on the following conversation you have, did Sally go to the bank this morning? Yes, she did. She got a new checking account. What does the woman imply? Okay, so let's begin by analyzing what the second speaker said. It says she got a new checking account. Is that active or is that passive? Yes, the sentence is active voice. Why? Because we have the word order, subject, verb, and object. She is the subject, got is the verb, and a new checking account is the object. So, the tip says that if the second speaker says something in active voice, the answer is going to be in passive. Take a moment to analyze the 4 sentences that you have below and decide what the answer is. Remember, most of the times the answer is going to be in passive voice. The answer for the question, what does the woman imply, is C. A new checking account was opened. So, again, the second speaker said something in active voice, and the answer is in passive voice. A new checking account used to be the object, now it is the subject. And then the verb includes the verb to be, conjugated in the tense of the sentence. It would be very, very interesting if you went back to the previous module in order to check how passive voice works. Okay, So let's do these exercises. This first conversation says, Alice needs to pay her tuition today, but her tuition has already been paid. What does the man imply? So the options are, Alice's education is paid off, Alice's tuition needs to be paid, Alice has already paid her fees, Alice has already received the money. So, let's check. Is the sentence that the man said inactive or impassive? It is impassive, exactly. So take a moment to decide what the answer for the question is. Okay, so the answer is letter C. Alice has already paid her fees. As I said, most of the times, if the second speaker said something impassive, the answer is going to be inactive. Let's continue with this conversation. Have you been taking good care of the lawn? I watered it only this morning. What does the woman mean? Let's analyze what the second speaker said. Is the sentence inactive or impassive? Yes, it is inactive. Why? Because the order of the words is subject, verb, and object. Take a moment to decide what the answer for the question is from the 4 options below. The answer to the question, what does the woman mean, is C. The lawn has already been watered this morning. If you notice, the sentence is in passive voice. Let's check this conversation. Did you hear the news about the child who was lost in the park? Yes, and I heard that she was just found. What does the woman mean? So, the sentence, the second speaker said something in passive voice. She was just found. So, take a minute to decide what the answer for the question is. The answer to the question, what does the woman mean, is A. Someone located the girl. As I said, it would be very interesting if you went back to the previous module in order to check how the passive voice works and when we use it. Okay, now it is your turn. Go to the practice section in order for you to review these passive voice statements in the listening section. See you next time.